Here's a question a finance manager types into SAP on a Tuesday. Which of my invoices are overdue? And chase the biggest one? You hit enter. And a second later, a grounded answer comes back with the real numbers and a draft reminder ready to send. That second, the one between hitting enter and getting your answer, is the most interesting second in all of SAP AI because a lot happens in it. So this whole episode, we're going to slow that second all the way down and walk through the actual machine that answers you. The architecture of Joule, no hand waving, the real path your question takes. First, where does Joule even live? Because it isn't floating in the cloud somewhere. It sits on a real stack and every layer has a job. At the bottom, SAP's business technology platform. BTP for short, the cloud foundation the whole thing runs on. Around all of it, SAP Cloud Identity, the security layer that knows exactly who you are. On top of that, SAP Build Work Zone, the experience layer, the unified place Joule shows up across your apps. Then Joule itself, the assistant you actually talk to. And underneath Joule, the engine that does the real thinking, the AI foundation, and tucked inside it, the Generative AI Hub. Foundation, identity, experience, assistant, engine. 5 layers, hold that stack in your head because your question is about to travel straight down through it. Before we follow the question in, one rule. Because it's the rule that makes all of this safe enough to actually ship into a company. That cloud identity layer isn't decoration. It enforces one hard line. You cannot do anything through Joule that you couldn't already do yourself, signed into SAP. If you're not allowed to see the salaries, Joule will not show you the salaries. If you can't approve a payment, Joule can't approve it for you either. It doesn't get special powers. It inherits yours. Exactly yours, no more, no less. And every single step we're about to walk through happens inside that fence. So remember the fence. Okay, step 1. The ask. You type your question in plain language right inside the app you're already in. No special console, no separate login, no menu. Joule takes that sentence and packages it up as a request. Simple as it looks, this is the front door. And notice what you did not do. You didn't tell it which system, which table, which transaction code. You just describe what you want. Everything from here is Joule figuring out the how. Let's follow the request in. Step 2. And this is the brain of the whole thing, orchestration. Your sentence which invoices are overdue means nothing to a computer yet. So orchestration does something clever. It looks your request up against 2 catalogs. First, the scenario catalog. Think of it as a menu of everything Joule is allowed to do across your SAP world. Can it list overdue invoices? Check the catalog. Yes, there is a skill for exactly that. Second, the knowledge catalog. Everything Joule is allowed to know. Documents, policies, your business data. And on top of both, it reads your context. Who you are, which app you're in, what you were just doing. Put those together and orchestration works out your intent. This is the overdue invoices job. It needs the accounts receivable data for this specific user. It has matched your plain little sentence to a real specific task. Now finally, it can route the work. But orchestration does a second job. And it's the unglamorous one that keeps enterprises up at night. Control. Because letting an AI reach into real business systems is genuinely dangerous if there are no rules. So this same layer wraps every request in guardrails. It fills in a prompt template, a controlled, tested way of asking the model, instead of just your raw words. It routes to the right model for the job. It runs content filters so nothing toxic or off policy comes back. And it masks sensitive data, so a credit card number or a salary never even reaches the model in the first place. Same layer, 2 faces. One side works out what you meant. The other side makes sure the whole thing stays inside the lines. Brain and guardrails together. Step 3. Grounding. And this is the heart of why SAP AI is different. So watch closely. The model is about to answer, but here's what we do not want. We don't want it answering from memory from stuff it read on the open internet. we want it answering from your data. So first, Joule goes and fetches the relevant facts. SAP calls this reg, retrieval augmented generation, built for the enterprise. For your documents, the contracts, the policies, the PDFs, it does something specific. It reads them, breaks them into small chunks, turns each chunk into a kind of mathematical fingerprint called an embedding, and files those away in a special index. Then when your question comes in, it finds the chunks that genuinely match and pulls just those out. Fetch the right facts first, then answer. That is grounding. And the place all those fingerprints actually live has a name worth knowing. That place is the HANA Cloud Vector Engine. Now, why does grounding need a special engine? Because normal search matches keywords. Vector search matches meaning. When Joule turned your text into those embeddings, it was really turning words into coordinates, a point in space, so that two things that mean the same thing land close together, even when they use completely different words. Ask about a late payment and it will find the document that says overdue receivable because in that space they're neighbors. HANA Cloud can store millions of those points and find the nearest ones in a blink. That right there is the trick that lets an AI search your entire enterprise by meaning instead of by exact words, turning your text into searchable meaning. That's the engine doing it. But documents are only half the story. A lot of what you ask about isn't a paragraph in a PDF. It's structured data. This invoice linked to that customer, tied to this contract sitting under that cost center. Those connections are the business. So SAP has a second grounding path, the knowledge graph, where Rage handles the loose, unstructured stuff. The knowledge graph maps the structured stuff, the web of how your business objects actually relate to one another. So when you ask for the biggest overdue invoice, Joule doesn't just find a matching sentence. It can follow the links, this invoice to this customer to their whole payment history. Two grounding paths now, meaning for your documents, relationships for your data, both feeding one answer. Step 4. Now finally the model. All of that grounded context, your real invoice rows, the right document chunks, gets handed to a large language model. And remember, SAP doesn't lock you to one. Through the Generative AI Hub, that one governed door, it could be Anthropic's Claude, OpenAI's GPT, Google's Gemini. The model takes your question plus the grounded facts and writes the answer. 3 invoices overdue. The biggest is this one. But here's the part people miss. It doesn't only talk. For the second half of your request, chase the biggest one. The model can trigger an actual action, calling a real SAP function that drafts the reminder. Answer or act. Same step, both on the table. Always inside the guardrails from before. Step 5. Delivery. And we close the loop we opened right at the start. Before that answer ever reaches your screen, it passes back through the security layer one more time. Every figure in it gets checked against what you personally are allowed to see. If somehow a number slipped in that's above your pay grade, it gets filtered out right here. So the answer that finally lands in front of you is grounded, it's cited, and it is yours. Nothing in it you weren't already cleared for. The fence holds start to finish. So let's pull all the way back and watch the whole thing run at once. Your question enters, the ask. Orchestration reads it against the catalogs and your context and wraps it in guardrails. Grounding fetches your real facts, documents through the vector engine, data through the knowledge graph. The model through the hub turns those facts into a grounded answer or a safe action. And delivery filters it by your permissions on the way out. 5 steps. 1 secure machine. And look at what comes back. Not a guess that merely sounds right, but an answer that cites the actual row of your actual ledger. That right there is the whole architecture of Joule in a single breath. Now here's why every layer of that mattered. Take a generic AI, the kind you chat with online. It is just that model box, the one from step 4, alone. No scenario catalog telling it what it's even allowed to do. No knowledge catalog, no vector engine, No knowledge graph feeding it your real data. No identity layer checking a single permission. Strip the architecture away and all that's left is a very fluent guesser. That gap between a lone model and this whole grounded, governed machine is the entire reason a generic AI cannot run your SAP. And that gap is a big enough story that it gets the whole next episode. One more thing, because this architecture isn't a sealed box. It's built to be extended. Say your company has a process Joule doesn't cover straight out of the box. You can build it. There's a tool called Joule Studio, part of SAP Build, where you create your own skills and your own agents, and they plug right into the exact pipeline we just walked. Your new skill becomes an entry in that scenario catalog. Your company's documents become part of the knowledge catalog. Same orchestration, same grounding, same security. Now doing your specific job. The architecture is the platform. Your extensions just ride on top of it. And if you are a developer, it goes deeper still. Underneath Joule Studio is the raw platform, BTP, and a software development kit for the Generative AI Hub. So you can call these models and this grounding straight from your own code. You can bring your own documents to ground on, from SharePoint, from other systems, through standard connectors. You can define brand new scenarios that map to your own custom SAP logic. Every single layer we drew, orchestration, grounding, the model door, is something you can build against. That's the real difference between a feature and a foundation. Joule is a foundation, and people are already building serious things on top of it. So that's the machine. Let's leave you with the shape of it, because if you remember the shape, you understand SAP AI. 5 steps, you ask. Orchestration figures out what you meant and keeps it inside the rules. Grounding fetches your real facts by meaning and by relationship. The model answers or it acts. And delivery makes sure you only ever see what's yours. One secure pipeline from your sentence to a grounded answer. And the single thread holding all of it together is the one this whole channel keeps circling back to. It works because it runs on your data and your permissions, not the model's imagination. Next episode, we zoom right in on exactly that. Why a generic AI with none of this simply cannot run your SAP. See you there. If you want SAP AI explained like this, the real architecture, no hand waving, subscribing genuinely helps. Next up, the big one. Why ChatGPT can't run your SAP and how grounding fixes it. And after that, we crack open that vector engine, how HANA Cloud turns your data into searchable meaning. See you in the next one.